A Wollongong doctor comes to the aid of victims of the Bali bombing. Key Cunningham candidates who can't vote in their own election. And a favourable draw for Universal Prince in the Caulfield Cup.
Evening's Late Edition with Geoff Phillips.
Good evening. 30 Australians are now confirmed dead in the Bali terror attack. Wollongong surgeon Dr John Hogg is in the thick of it. What was supposed to be a relaxing holiday, now an horrific tour of duty.
Shocking and chaotic, that's how the Wollongong surgeon describes the scene of the Bali bomb attacks. Some scenes too distressing to mention.
I can describe some I will not. When we got to the hospital, there were many lightly wounded people coming out of it, obviously in a state of shock and distress.
The director of surgery at Wollongong Hospital saying the conditions at the Denpasar hospitals are the worst he's ever worked under in his 25 years' experience. Simple things like running water and wound dressings just not available.
Within the hospital, absolute crowds of people everywhere. Very typical of the East, where you can hardly move for people, very difficult to get even from one bed to another.
Wollongong resident Milton O'Brien has just arrived home from Bali, thankful to be back on home soil.
A lot of other people went through a lot worse than we did, and my family, but great to be back home.
What he saw after the night of October 12 still vivid in his mind.
The faces of the people in the streets and the way they reacted to something that'll live with us for a long time.
Meantime, after yesterday's story of the missing Ullawarra boys in Bali, an online message board has been set up for the community to place condolences for both the Dunn and Lewis family. Follow the links at www.ulladulla.info. Lizzie Pearl, Win News.
Travel agents claim the attacks in Indonesia are yet another blow to an industry still attempting to recover from September 11. Industry professionals predict those still willing to travel will now choose safer destinations.
It's an industry still reeling after September 11. Now the tourism sector has been dealt another blow. The terrorist attacks in Bali will, according to travel agents, simply fuel the public's fear of overseas destinations.
The kind of thoughts it puts into people's minds and the fear that it creates, which is exactly why it's called terrorism, makes it something that's never going to be the way it was.
And according to tourism operators, that means only those who need to travel will.
People will slow down. There will be those that still have to travel. That's because of business or what have you. But those who want to travel for leisure purposes or holidays will naturally stick closer to home.
Most travel companies posted significant losses in the aftermath of September 11, and Kylie Mamoni claims the same will be true in the months to come. She believes as international uncertainty grows and talk of Australian retribution gathers momentum, people will stay home. But for those few who still choose to holiday overseas, travel agents predict they'll visit destinations where security is tight.
Western culture is so used to looking after security and that sort of thing, that security in those countries is so much tighter these days after September 11. So safety-wise, I think that's it's very positive.
Sophie James, Win News.
More than 3,000 people have already voted in the Cunningham by-election under pre-poll arrangements which continue until 6 o'clock on Friday night. But two of the key candidates in Saturday's contest won't be casting a vote because they live outside the electorate.
With pre-polling well underway, candidates and their supporters are busy distributing how-to-vote cards as campaigning moves into the final 2 days.
At the end of the day, they said there was only 3 people could win. Well, I think there's 4, and I think one of those 4 is me, and I don't think people have judged, have really seen what's happening. If they spend a bit of time on pre-poll here, they'd realise there's an extra candidate there.
His preferences may hold the key to the outcome of the poll, but the independent is one of 5 candidates who won't be voting because they don't live in the electorate. The ALP candidate who announced a small business plan today is another who doesn't meet the residential qualification, along with One Nation, the Christian Democrats and the Citizens Electoral Council.
Glad to see the finish line, but also very conscious that I want to make as much as I can of the remaining 3 days to get out there and let people know where we stand on all the policies that they've raised, and that's why we're doing this today on small business.
Labor again under attack from sections of the union movement, who claim a win for Ms Bird spells the end for State MP Colin Markham.
The party is a place where the determination for the member of Wollongong will be made. Now, Obviously, some unions have a particular position they want to express on that, as they've expressed a position on my candidacy.
Alan Clark, Win News.
Meantime, Cunningham candidate Peter Wilson and Wollongong councillor Dave Martin have revealed their joint vision for Wollongong. The very fast train, a must in the eyes of the independents, who are looking to balance development with environmental sustainability.
Peter Wilson and Dave Martin have joined forces in their plan to put Wollongong back on the map. They say the city should be a mecca for employment and development, as well as environmental sustainability.
So that the environment that we live in is a place where people can work, but it's also a place where people want to and like to live.
There are big plans for Port Kembla Harbour, the port to become the major shipping export hub for agriculture in New South Wales.
We want Port Kembla Harbour to be a major shipping port for the east coast of Australia, to then feed into the distribution of container traffic and all types of trade in the Sydney to Melbourne and up to Brisbane route.
And the Independent is confident of getting the funding from the coalition government.
Because it's in their interests, obviously, to have Wollongong not go back to Labor.
Also in the vision, greater investment in research at the University of Wollongong, particularly in new technology development. Lizzie Pearl, Win News.
A 29-year-old Nowra woman has been assaulted by a man while putting her child in a car yesterday. The incident occurred in the underground car park of an Nowra shopping centre. The woman claims an unknown man came up behind her, placed his hand on her back and lifted up her dress. The man is described as being in his early 20s with short dark hair, about 180 centimetres tall and wearing a green polo shirt and shorts. Anyone with information is urged to contact Shoalhaven Police. Illawarra Health, in conjunction with the New South Wales Attorney General's Department, has launched a new mental health court liaison service.
The service is available for people with a mental illness who are due to appear in Wollongong Court. It follows a successful trial period which commenced last year with a specialist mental health nurse available to access clients determining the extent of mental illness connected with each crime.
We have had great cooperation from the courts, and we hope that magistrates in particular feel that they're able to provide a more informed decision about the fate of the offenders before them.
During the trial period, the trained medical nurse has provided one full assessment while also seeing up to 15 other people per day. The scheme designed to stop repeat offenders.
If mental health illness is identified early, we can stop people reoffending, we can stop them getting into a vicious cycle.
Targeting some of the most vulnerable people in the region, Illawarra Health hopes to expand the service in the not-too-distant future.
We hope to expand in the future down to the Shoalhaven. There is a need, and we hope to meet that need in the near future.
Legal and health representatives confident this latest venture will prove beneficial to the community. Colin Duffy, Win News.
Coming up next on Win News, primary students help a coastal regeneration project and people warned about the consequences of ignoring a total fire ban. Another total fire ban has been declared in the Illawarra tomorrow. The combination of strong winds, extreme temperatures and very dry conditions making the south coast a hotspot for bushfires.
Only a few weeks into the bushfire season, the Rural Fire Service has initiated a total fire ban after recommendations from the Bureau of Meteorology show the Illawarra as an extreme fire danger area.
On days of a declared total fire ban is that no fires are permitted in the open. That is, no campfires, all permits to burn off, any rubbish burning is strictly prohibited.
People are permitted to use a gas or electric barbecue in their own residence, as long as a garden hose is nearby. Predictions for the summer ahead are not looking good, with the fire service believing there is most certainly a significant fire threat in the Illawarra.
We've got a lot of high-risk areas, including Still Helensburgh, Otford, Mount Kira, Thirroul, Mount Kembla are all areas that we're very concerned about, as well as houses all along the escarpment.
After the horror Christmas bushfires, residents are urged to adhere to the fire ban or face the consequences.
There are strict penalties that can be applied, basically up to a $5,000 fine for anyone that actually breaks a total fire ban.
Rebecca Smith, Win News.
Environmental education moved to the beach today with primary school students in Wollongong's north lending a helping hand to a coastal restoration project.
More than 20 Year 5 and 6 students from Waniora Public School took part in one of the regular field trips checking out plant and animal life, including an endangered sooty oyster catcher.
It's a great project. It gives the students of the area a real good hands-on environmental education.
Then it was down to the hard work, revegetating the littoral dune system with native plants.
Make sure you have a little dish so when it does rain, the water sort of concentrates around it.
And they need little encouragement. Illawarra, one of 5 schools in the Sandon Point project since its inception 3 years ago.
We collect the seed from the local area, from native plants that have been here forever and a day. Once we got the seed back to the class, we propagated them, they watched them grow, they helped look after them, and now they're back in the ground.
Since 1996, we've had about 90 projects.
And how have they gone? What difference have they made?
They've made a huge difference, I think. Not only for environmental benefits, but also social benefits, just getting the community together to work on the land.
They come out once a month and we do planting or weeding, and this whole project's all about embracing the community, getting them to take some responsibility for their local environment.
Alan Clark, Win News.
As part of Indigenous Awareness Week, students at Wollongong University have set up a special Aboriginal campsite on campus. Their action helping celebrate and promote Aboriginal culture. A sacred fire has been lit and a series of smoking ceremonies is planned. There's also a variety of Indigenous activities with boomerang throwing and didgeridoo playing. The federal government is downplaying the National Farmers Federation's opposition to the privatisation of Telstra. In its submission to the Estens Telecommunications Inquiry, the NFF officially confirmed it does not support the full sale of the telco.
Australia's major farm lobby group has put its significant weight behind opposition to the further sale of Telstra. The National Farmers Federation explaining its concerns in a submission to the Estens Telecommunications Inquiry. The move welcomed by independent MP Peter Andren, who says that simply reflects the concerns he's been hearing from rural residents.
The NFF has basically said that its findings are similar to what we've been finding in our survey results.
But the federal government is unfazed by the NFF stance, saying it hasn't impacted on the debate over selling the remainder of the telco.
The NFF have expressed these views now for quite some time, so that decision won't come as any surprise. All Australians want to ensure that the service levels are appropriate.
The Minister once again guaranteeing the sale won't proceed until service standards are satisfactory, particularly in rural areas. The federal government now waiting on the results of the Estens inquiry and independent telecommunications review.
Once that inquiry is complete, we'll be in a better position to make more decisions on these sorts of issues.
Jacqueline Thompson, Win News.
Calls for Wollongong City Council to match dollar for dollar a $25,000 car government grant to prepare a master plan for the Bellambi boat ramp. Calls have already gone out for an extended break wall, a second launching jetty, better parking and a dedicated mooring for a Coast Guard vessel. Council representatives have met to discuss their support and will vote next month on financial support. After a great start on the stock market today, it finished just 2 points up. BHP Steel, though, was trading up 8 cents at $2.95. BHP Bulletin surged 16 cents to $9.65. An 8-cent gain for the AMP to $12.68. Telstra, though, down 2 to $4.82. The unlisted IMB lost 5 cents to close at $3.05. Time for sport with Matt Russell and a French invasion at Wynn Stadium, Matt.
Geoff, before next year's World Cup, also Victory Vane's 1,000 Guineas run, the Wolves. And what sport are these people playing? A busy day for Bede Murray Racing in Melbourne. Kembla star Victory Vane missed a place in this afternoon's Caulfield Guineas. Stablemate Universal Prince drawing satisfactorily for Saturday's Caulfield Cup. Today's feature race was for fillies and they turned out in more ways than one. The blokes were told to take their pick. Kembla's Victory Vane, a $3.70 Guineas favourite. She's won 11 of her 14 starts, but from the widest barrier turned for home last on the rails in the black and red.
At the 200-metre mark now, and La Belladame sprinted up to Royal Perla. Bullabog easy running on down the outside. Macedon Ladies flying home. La Belladame in front at the 100. Macedon Ladies storming home on the outside. Macedon Lady flies at the line, they hit it.
Macedon Lady won it, ridden by Stephen King, trained by John Simons. Victory Vane poking up on the rails to finish 7th, never in the race. Earlier, the Caulfield Cup draw, where Universal Prince will fly the Bede Murray flag.
For number 2, Universal Prince, barrier 12.
The stable isn't unhappy, just outside Hot Pops, Northerly in 10, Fields of Omar in 11.
More importantly, I think he can stay out of trouble around the first corner and position himself up reasonably well. Obviously won't get an inside run, but I wasn't looking for that.
With plenty of pace inside, the Murray stable says the Prince should be able to sit nicely and hopefully find that finishing burst. Senior French rugby officials have spent the afternoon at Wynn Stadium, a step in their preparation for next year's World Cup. France will play Repechage 1 in Wollongong. It's not Twickenham or even Homebush, but Wynn Stadium will do France just fine come October 31 next year.
Conviendra à l'équipe de France de rugby.
He said it's a very beautiful stage which will be fitting for the French team.
Having bolted into the last World Cup final, upsetting New Zealand along the way, France will come to Australia with great expectations. Bernard Laporte shoulders much of that pressure as coach.
On sait que ce sera difficile, chaque Coupe du Monde est difficile.
He said every World Cup is a difficult one.
A key to any success will be finding a fitting training base. Wollongong is lobbying every visiting country, the French already finding theirs.
Unfortunately, they are based in Sydney, but they'll be coming to Wollongong as visitors.
Wynn Stadium will be packed with French fanatics on game day. The World Cup will use 12 Australian venues for 48 matches, 2 in Wollongong, with a ticket booklet to be released in newspapers this weekend. The biggest headline reserved for the final on November 22.
Australia at home is very difficult to play against them, but South Africa, New Zealand, England also, and we hope that France we are at this level.
The Wolves are training at Brandon Park in preparation for Friday's showdown with Newcastle, hoping Stuart Young and David Savinsky can shake ankle injuries. Newcastle named its squad today with no changes except the inclusion of Matthew Bingley, who trained strongly yesterday but is still no certainty to return from injury.
Maybe a little bit early still, but we've included him in. We'll see how he pulls up after today's session and see how he pulls up after tomorrow night as well, just to where we go from there.
Newcastle and the Wolves are equal third, United with 2 wins and 2 losses, Wollongong with a win and 3 draws.
I think they expect to be where they are. A lot of other people didn't, but, you know, that's good luck to them. I mean, they're playing well, and I'm sure they deserve to be where they are.
The Illawarra Flame is preparing for a torrid double-header against the Sharks on Sunday. Coach Andrew Code says his team will be sharper with the bat after losing 2 games at home to the Ryde Eastwood Hawks.
Strong pitching was the name of the game as the Flame met the Hawks. Jonathan Hall conceding only 3 runs and 6 hits in Game 2 of the double-header. His efforts providing a clean slate in 6 innings. It was with the bat where the Flame struggled. Hawks pitcher Tom McKean giving away only 2 hits in 8 innings. Dean Layton finding it hard to break the cycle. Caught in the outfield, his plight repeated throughout the day. The Hawks sneaking through on this occasion to post one of their 3 runs for the second game. The Flames unable to answer. It was a similar story in the first game with Illawarra drawing a blank with the bat. Ryde Eastwood winning that contest 4-0. The Hawks climb to equal second on the ladder, while the Flame fall to 5th. Illawarra faces another doubleheader at Berkeley this weekend, agreeing to a request by Cronulla Sutherland that the games be moved from Saturday to Sunday. Adam Rascal, Win News.
The winless Wollongong College Mustangs have slumped to a 5th straight loss, beaten 9-0 by the Concord Jaguars. Poor turnovers like this one cruelled the Mustangs, who also fumbled far too often. The best in a beaten side, running back Alex Stokes. The Mustangs' next game is against West Sydney at Homebush on Saturday. 4 Illawarra players have made the New South Wales men's indoor hockey squad. Their inclusion comes after Illawarra lost the state final to Sydney in a penalty shootout.
The Illawarra white side was hot to trot throughout the state men's championship. Paul Burns running rampant, helping Illawarra remain undefeated until the final. The Whites down in Queanbeyan, the Illawarra and Sydney Twos and Penrith to make the final. On this occasion, Jason Carr scoring in a 7-0 demolition of Penrith. Keegan Smith impressing selectors, making the state team along with Matthew Perry, Burns and Simon Beaton. They'll play in the Nationals in Perth next month. Illawarra losing to defending champion Sydney 3-1 in a penalty shootout after being locked 6-all after extra time. The Southern Highlands winning Division B and the under-21s, and to an alternative form of hockey, this time underwater. The state titles battled out at the Wollongong University pool. The action a little difficult to follow from up top.
No, it's not a spectator sport. You don't see much except bubbles and bums from the surface, but usually at national titles and world titles, there'll be underwater cameras and TVs set around the poolside.
The sport taking on strong overtones of synchronised swimming, exponents saying correct breathing is the key, to take a breath and then dive, not the other way around. Australia is a dominant force on the pool floor, recently winning the world titles in Canada in the men's and women's. Wollongong's men winning the state title, beating Sydney 2-0, with Wollongong providing the first and only women's side. A men's, women's and junior team to be chosen for the Nationals in January. Adam Rascal, Win News.
Interesting, Geoff.
I'll say all the weather details after the break, then a free feed for cyclists on their way to work. Mainly fine and warm across the region today, and a total fire ban is in place. If we bring up the satellite photo, we'll see a band of cloud approaching from Victoria. That's thinned somewhat as the front moves through the western and southern inland. Tomorrow the front moves through central parts, reaching the far northeast late in the afternoon. Temperature-wise, Wollongong peaked at 28 degrees, 25 at Bowral, 29 at Nowra, 27 at Ulladulla, 26 degrees at Bateman's Bay, a pair of 25s for Maruya and Narooma, 27 at Bega, 28 at Merimbula. The forecast for the Illawarra and the Highlands. A partly cloudy day tomorrow, the chance of an afternoon thunderstorm. It will be mild to warm with moderate to fresh southerly winds. Ahead of us, Friday dry, Saturday isolated showers and thunderstorms before the dry conditions return on Sunday. For the south coast, again mostly fine, cool to mild with light southwest to southeasterly winds. Ahead of us, dry and warm light winds tending northwesterly to northeasterly on Friday. On the water, seas running at 1 to 2.5 metres on a 1 to 1.5 metre swell, and there is a strong wind warning south of Ulladulla. The first tide tomorrow is a high just before 6 o'clock, the first low of the day at 20 to midday. 16 in Wollongong, reaching for 20 degrees. Bowral 12 to 17, Nowra spanning 14 to 19, 12 to 18 at Bateman's Bay, 9 to 18 degrees at Bega. Dozens of two-wheeled terrors headed into the Wollongong City Mall this morning for the annual Ride to Work Day breakfast. More than 250 cyclists tucked into bacon, eggs and sausages. They're even treated to a free bicycle safety check. The aim of Ride to Work Day is to encourage more people to use bicycles as an alternative means of transport. And on that note, that is the news from across the region for this Wednesday night. I'm Geoff Phillips from the Win News team. Good night.
This has been a Win News presentation from Australia's largest regional television network.